This is a video in response to your last email. I'm just going to give you the quick information about how cold email works, give you a rundown on how everything looks, and go from there. Anyways, sorry for the delay, by the way. I've really been a really busy day, but whatever. Let's just get right into it. So I want to quickly introduce myself, introduce my company. My name is Georgie. I'm the co-founder of Borks.io. We are a full lead generation agency. We build scalable and predictable customer acquisition systems that are all grounded on psychological principles. These aren't things that go out of trend or something. These are things that always work, always will work, and always have worked. Okay? But anyways, with that being said, let's get right into what I want to show you. Some of our clients have worked with Zoom, Copy.ai, LastPass, LA Times, Crunchyroll, Epic Games, Klaviyo, LastPass. A ton of companies. We've been doing this for quite a while, so you could see a couple of our case studies here. You could see some of our pictures, results there. But anyways, let's get right into the video. So first thing I do want to discuss with you is the actual process of getting up the infrastructure in order to send cold email. Now, everything starts at a primary domain, right? Your primary domain is what you use for your website. Now, just for the sake of the example, I'm going to say advertising.com. Okay, now advertising.com, if that's your primary domain, your secondary domains would look like theadvertising.com, goadvertising.com, tryadvertising.com, advertisingagency.com, advertisinghub.com. And that's how your primary domains will look. How your secondary domains would look. For every single one of your secondary domains, you have 2 email accounts, right? And that's because we want to keep the deliverability high. Now, John at theadvertising.com and Bob at theadvertising.com are just 2 theoretical people, and that's the people who are at your company. Okay? So for every secondary domain, you can have 2 email accounts. Now, in this setup right here, we only have 5 domains and 10 emails, but for our real clients and for ourselves as well, we start everybody off at 25 domains and 50 email accounts. Okay, now you can expect one email account to be able to send 40 cold emails per day per inbox. Okay, now I'm going to run through the numbers with you real quick so we can really understand what that means. You got the actual math, right? This is the best stuff. You got 25 domains. 25 domains means you got 50 email accounts. If you got 50 email accounts, it means you're sending 40 emails per day per inbox. That's 2,000 emails per day per inbox because 50 times 40 is 2,000. Okay? Now there's 21 sending days out of the month because we're only sending Monday through Friday. That means that you're sending 42,000 emails per month. Okay? Now that is split 50-50 because we're doing 21,000 cold emails and 21,000 follow-ups. Okay? Now a 21,000 cold email pool at a 50% open rate, which is very conservative. We have campaigns at 90% open rates, right? Is going to equal to 10,500 people opening your email. And again, this is very conservative, right? If you have good leads, there's no reason why your open rate should be 50%. Okay, but that's the overlook. Then we got a 5% response rate. Now again, it's pretty much the lowest that we ever do. Like it's typically a little bit better than this, but this is being conservative. You got 525 people interested. 525 people interested. Now imagine 10% are actually interested. Not responded, but actually they expressed interest in the service. Now 10% seems very low because if they went out of their way to respond, they most likely speaking are interested. But let's just say 10% just for the sake of the example. You got 52 people interested in your service. Now these people have already expressed that yes, they want a meeting. Yes, they want value from you. Yes, they want to hear from you, right? Now imagine somehow 20% only book, like actually book a meeting. That's 10 meetings booked. Now imagine your closing rate is under industry average and you're closing at 20%. You have just acquired 2 clients in the span of 1 month doing cold email. And this is nothing crazy. SmartLead right here, this is the cold email sending software that we use. I'm going to tell you about it later. We have 18 interested prospects, you being one of them. I'm going to scroll down so you can see February 13th is the first date which my lead has responded. It is currently February 14th here in New Jersey in the United States of America, okay? Meaning that in 2 days, we've got 18 interested prospects who want to work with us, okay? So cold email definitely works. If you know what you're doing and you're sending emails to the right people, it definitely works, okay? Now let's go back to here. Now we're going to discuss the actual process of launching a campaign. Step number 1, most important part, you got to get your data. Now, we use so many different data sources. This is by far the most expensive part, the most time-consuming part, the most, talent-consuming part. This is where, you either make or break a campaign. You got to get the right data. Now, we use Apollo, BrandNav, StoreLeads, G2, Agency Visa, Snuv, Built With, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, TikTok ads, Google, SmartLead, Applify, Amazon, Klaviyo partners, SEM Pro partners. We use all sorts of different agencies, all sorts of different types of lead sources in order to find all sorts of different types of businesses. Now, the platforms that we decide to use in order to target obviously depends on, who it is that we're targeting. But for example, in your situation, we found you guys on Clutch. So that's what we did to find you. Now, this is only going to get you the website URLs, and that's not an email address, right? You still have to do that part later. Now, I'm going to touch on that, and I'm even going to show you how I actually found your exact email, right? I'm literally going to show you, okay? Now, let's continue. Now, after you got those URLs, you have to validate those URLs because you're going to have a lot of invalid data. Now, keep in mind, right? Companies go out of business, companies get acquired, companies close down. Things happen in life. So all of this data that you just scraped isn't necessarily all valid, right? Now, we have a proprietary tool in the agency which is able to check hundreds of thousands of websites on certain factors, right? Now, the first two things we do always. The next two things we do sometimes. So the first two things is checking whether a website is still active. This makes perfect sense. If your domain's inactive, you're not a qualified lead. If your website's not in English, then you're not a qualified lead either, right? We only do outreach to English markets. We only do outreach in English. So those two criteria have to be met. And this actually happened to you, right? We did automatically check your website. Obviously, it is live. And we did actually check your website for it, being English. And it was English. That's why, I'm sending you this video right now. Then the next two steps is checking whether a website has social media profiles and checking whether the website has any blacklisted domains in it. Now, when I say that a website has social media profiles, it's sometimes in the footer or sometimes on top or somewhere on the website, or not sometimes, most times. Any serious company will include their social media profiles somewhere on their website, right? So for us, it's right here, as you can see. Or for the D2C side of things, when we're targeting e-commerce companies, we'll do this a lot. We don't really do it as much for agencies, but it is a capability that we have access to. Now, after this step is complete, we have a cleaned list of URLs. Then we come to a software called Apollo. Now, Apollo is where we are able to actually get the decision maker's contact information. I'm going to show you exactly how I did that to you right now after I explain this process. Now, you take a company URL, you company match it in Apollo. Then you find the employees that work at that company. Then you add certain filters, and you filter by job title. Now, I'm not sure why there isn't anything here. This must be a little glitch in the document, but usually it says CEO, owner, director, chairman, all of the executive positions in a company. Right, now we're going to go here. Now, after that's done, we take it to a tool called Million Verifier. Now, Million Verifier is a tool that verifies email addresses. Just like I mentioned earlier, companies go out of business, people get fired, people get replaced. You have to be sure that the people you're emailing are still valid, right? So what Million Verifier does is exactly that, right? It validates email addresses. Now, you're going to give Million Verifier a big list that you just scraped from Apollo, and that is going to separate into three groups. It's going to separate into valid, risky, invalid. Valid emails are going to be emails that are just ready for sending. They're just 100% real. Risky emails are going to be emails that could potentially be real, but they could also potentially be not real. And these are actually verifiable, but you're going to have to go through a deep verification process, which takes a lot more time and a lot more money. So we set this aside for later. And the reason we set it aside for later is because when we test a bunch of different angles and segments, which we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll know immediately which ones work. And then we'll only pay to verify the ones that we know work. Okay? And then invalid are just invalid. They just don't work. And we add those to a database to ensure that we don't requeue them again later. Obviously not to waste money. So after we get a list of all the verified people, we have one big list. And that's not good. We want to have a bunch of small lists. In this particular situation, one of our segments was SEO. We also had a segment for PR companies, a segment for PPC companies, and all sorts of different segments. And each one of them had their own message. So the SEO segment had that little comment about SEO. The PR segment had the little comment about PR. And that's exactly what we do. But all of them push the same offer, which is inevitably this video. Okay? That's kind of how the average looks. Now, once we have all of our lists prepared, these are verified lists, there's one more step before we go live. That step is validating our companies through AI. Now, we use OpenAI's API. OpenAI is the company behind ChatGPT, great company. We use their service in order to validate company names. Now, the reason this is important is because a lot of the time when you export these leads, they're going to have messed up company names. So like Borks LLC, Borks Inc., Borks all capital, and stuff like this. All you need is just Borks. You don't want to have anything else. Like imagine if I would have sent you a message and instead of just saying, I said SaaS SEO company, right? Like that wouldn't be legitimate, right? You wouldn't respond to me because it would look very suspicious and it would look like an automatic email. So we make sure that all of that gets filtered out with the use of AI. And that's when we go into SmartLead. SmartLead is a dedicated cold email sending tool. It's not like MailChimp or something that's just for emails in general. This is specifically for a cold email, and we set up everything. Now, again, this is a massive oversimplification because of the fact that if I were to explain everything, we would be here for hours. Now, that's kind of how email works from my overall perspective. Now, there's 3 components to our offer. There's a pay-per-call, our setup fee, and a small retainer. I'm going to quickly run through everything. The pay-per-call is anywhere from $100 to $300. The only time that you pay for that call is when we get you on the phone with a prospect who shows up. The prospect has to be a decision maker who can actually give you a yes or no answer. The prospect has to be interested in SEO. The prospect has to meet your certain criteria. So if you tell me, George, I only want to work with fintech SaaS companies that are making 100 to 200K a month, that are based in the United States, which are using, I don't know, Intercom, then we can literally only message those companies and only will we book those companies, right? We can really get dialed down with the filtering. And I would love to show you on a call of us actually building a lead list out live. But that's the only time you pay for the call. The small retainer is $200 per month. That just goes towards your email accounts and your sending software. Just so you know, by the way, the cheapest email accounts in the market are 50 email accounts. Because of the fact that we're managing thousands of inboxes, we have major discounts and stuff like this, right? But we're only charging you $20 a month for email accounts and sending software, when if you were to go get it yourself, it'd be $20 a month alone. Okay, and this is not even including everything else. This is the cheap part. The most expensive parts are the leads, right? So that's kind of how that looks. Then the main component of the offer is the setup fee. Now, with our setup fee, it's typically because we have to usually build out a landing page for the client as well. For you guys in particular, you already have a very nice landing page. There's nothing, we don't really need to change anything here. So for you guys, it'd be a setup fee. That would go towards your 50 email accounts, your 25 domains, your sending software, your appointment setter, all of your leads, your verification credits, your validation credits, everything that goes into actually starting an outreach campaign. You guys are being, covered by that. And then the only starts next month after we start working together, to cover those just operating costs. Now, if you've ever done cold ad or paid ads, you know that $1 to get a system up and running is not that much. It's really, nothing crazy, especially considering you could be acquiring 2 extra new clients a month, and that's very, very statistically, mathematically possible, right? So that's kind of how that would look. So if this is something that you're interested in, we can book in a outbound audit call. All an outbound audit call is we're basically going to build out a lead list live for you on the call. We're literally going to take your ICP and build it out, right? And I'm going to show you not just a generalized approach, but exactly how we would do it for you, so you can see how this would work specifically for you, okay? Now, that's about it, right? All I'm going to say is, even if in the future, we end up not working together, or you decide that you guys want to take it internal, you guys always keep the system, you guys always keep all the domains, all the email accounts. The setup fee isn't even in reality spending money. It's just converting it from a currency to, a cold email asset. So that's about it. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to get back to me on email and I'll get you a response.